All right, we have arrived at the winners finals. KhannX versus Vygg. Vygg, again, very common name that we've seen in the LRA, picking up a win for Mafia Esports there in the LRA. KhannX, a relatively new name to the scene. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on that bell so you guys get notified when this tournament stuff goes live. And right now, KhannX undefeated through the top 8, and this is double elimination. So Vygg will have to take down KhannX twice. So let's see if he can do it. Let's go ahead and get into the gameplay. We are still waiting to get into the game. I'm sure it should start any moment. Never mind. It looks like we are starting right about now. And fingers crossed that we don't freeze.
I'm going to give it a second. You can rush in there this time. SJW, get in there. Leroy Jenkins.
I already restarted.
I'm going to be the guy that's like, oh, okay. I'm going to be the guy that's in the back like, oh, wait, he really just ran in there, huh? Now I'm going to spectate.
And yeah, it looks like we have the Anivia Rekindler, and it's going to be against those miss rates. This is the exact matchup I was talking about. We're already mulliganing so that Kindly Tavern Keeper and Avalanche are being kept. This looks like it's going to be kind of rough for KhannX.
I don't know. It's not too hard to fight through the first Avalanche just because you do pretty immediately require an answer onto something like that. Even if I just go Arachnite Horror into Mist Wraith into Wraithcaller, you absolutely have to Avalanche that. And yeah, you're going to get a pretty sizable advantage off of it, but I think at the end of the day, it's realistically only a +1, and you're still going to take 4 damage off that Wraithcaller. And then that's one Avalanche out of the way. The next Wraithcaller gets a lot more value, and I believe there's Withering Whales in the deck of Vygg. It would be kind of wild if there were not, but there are not. So you don't even have that 3 damage combo of the Avalanche into the Whale.
Yeah, and that's... Oh, wait, there's no Whale at all?
No Whale at all.
Oh. You know, Whale is something that has actually been out of the meta for quite some time. And, I mean, honestly, I don't hate it just because Whale isn't as effective against Wraiths unless you're specifically comboing it with something like Avalanche. Because of that 3 health, stat, obviously. And Spider aggro isn't really a thing. I've seen it, again, sometimes on ladder, but it's definitely not popular yet. And I think that's when Withering Whale gets seen. When discard aggro and Spider aggro are both a thing. Right now, discard aggro also seems to have fallen off quite a bit in the competitive space.
I think discard aggro is going to be really popular, but I think because of the Jinx bug, it's been banned from a lot of tournaments.
Oh, that's actually, I forgot about that. That's a good point. Okay. So it might still actually be pretty good, but...
Yeah, because it felt really good before, and then it got a pretty sizable buff, so I am excited to see how that one works out. But for the time being, the Grasp of the Undying is being run as a 3-of, and I do think that is still going to help Vygg quite a bit.
Well, yeah, and that cleans up those 3 health units that we were just talking about, right? And, if we do get something like the Vile Feast drawn, those will also help clean up those 3 health units. We do have the Elise opening up here for KhannX too, which feels really good. Going to get some of those tokens generated, deal a little bit of damage. This is most likely going to either be a pass or an Avarosian Sentry into a Kindly Tavern Keeper. It looks like we're not going to throw down the Sentry yet. Tavern Keeper going to keep us healthy, though, if we do drop it.
Yep, there he goes. There are a lot of cards that have names, and we don't know time.
wait, tell me more, Boulevard. Wait, there's a lot of cards that have names?
So, crowd favorite's name is Vaseed. Crimson Curator's name is Edwin, but I don't think we actually know the name of the Tavern Keeper. And, of course, 8-Punch Pablo, Boxtopus.
Did you just call him 8-Punch Pablo?
That's his name.
No, it's not, really?
It absolutely. Yeah, when he comes down alongside Tom Kench, yeah, he says, watch out for 8-Punch Pablo.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow. That's something. Didn't know that.
You want to talk about best, names for players? Let's talk about 8-Punch Pablo.
8-Punch Pablo's up there, man. That is 100%. Right now, that's ranking up there as #1 for best person or thing name within the card in a game. So his race is a Boxtopus then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess he's an octopus, but he's a boxer. That's kind of his whole thing.
Yeah, and here we go.
One thing that I want to mention while I sit here and just constantly full art the Kindly Tavern Keeper just to figure out if I could find out his name, I just want a really big shout out to Riot for this really small quality of life thing. When you full screen the art, the rope still shows in the top right corner around the X.
That's funny you mentioned that. I wanted to point that out at some point too. Yeah, it's very, very tiny thing, but actually, let me see if I can. I'm gonna do that for you guys. Wait, can I even? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so right here, see if you guys are looking, you have the little bar. That's pretty cool. That's very. I mean, I would have rather them been no disconnects than have that there. But I mean, hey, you know,
Look,
you win
all
some,
right,
you
yeah,
lose
you
some.
know what? That one's been there for a while, okay? All right, so we are going to see some blocks lined up. The Nocturne coming down does mean that this is no longer a fearsome blocker. And Nocturne is so good against decks that have a very limited number of fearsome blockers, where you have these Tavern Keepers as kind of your only option until the Anivia levels, or you get down to Rekindler, and you think, okay, this is safe. I open 2 of these. That's great. I'm going to be able to fight for the board so effectively. And then for one turn, one of them's off the table, and things get a lot rougher. You're taking damage you didn't think you were going to be taking, but now with triple Avalanche, you have to feel pretty good about your ability to clean up any board your opponent makes, especially since you do still have the fearsome blocker. Granted, vulnerable is left on side of him. Didn't expect Avalanche to be fired off right here. Put that one back in. This is what I was talking about. We need the function to smack a player's hand.
Put that one back. Put it back. Put it back.
You would actually Avalanche for a -1.
Yeah, and we can kind of see. So I like how Khan is playing this very intelligently. This is pretty standard gameplay if he's trying to kind of keep all of his resources, not invest too much in the board. And this is kind of the first steps towards, are we going to draw out an Avalanche? It looks like we are. This is actually really good for Khan. You know, it feels like you're killing 3 units with the Avalanche, but you're not really. Right? You're really only killing the miss rate. The 2 tokens were generated from Elise, and that's what Elise does. It helps you bait out removal like that when those Spiderlings aren't really even a card anyways. So definitely pretty good to get that Avalanche out. But what Khan does not know is that there are still 2 Avalanche in the hand of Vygg, which feels really bad. I've had that happen to me. I was playing Scouts one time, and they had triple Avalanche. That is tilting, man. You're just like, I play cards. All right, I got an Avalanche out. Good. I'll play some more cards. All right, sweet. I got 2 out. They probably don't have the 3rd. They play the 3rd. That's just back. Your heart gets broken, man.
and unlike something like Ruination, Avalanche is a card that they can just run out turn after turn. It looks like we are going to fire off another Avalanche here because Wraithcaller and Nocturne, 2 of the 3 HP units in this deck, are not on the table. And honestly, if there was another Elise, I would have expected either a Crawling Sensation or for the Elise to block the Tavern Keeper last turn and then just play a fresh one. So I would imagine that anything that KhannX plays here, even if it's something like a Mist Wraith into a... oh, man. Risen Mists.
That's the
actually did have the Elise. That might have come all the way from the left, though. You know, you're going to take the damage, but you can still clean it up with the last Avalanche. But once that 3rd Avalanche is out of the way, KhannX is going to have the run of the field. Does have a Ruination in hand, but that is a little bit different than an Avalanche. It's not quite as safe. It's a lot more mana committal. And yeah, this is going to be 6 damage coming in because you did fire off that Avalanche a little bit early. Granted, you would have been taking 6 damage if you didn't Avalanche anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of the perfect time to play the Stygian Onlooker. This is why I love this card so much. People were very up in the air when this card came out. You know, oh, is this really worth it? A 4-1 that goes back down to a 2-1. Hell yeah, it is, because 4 damage that's a lot of damage. Really love that card.
It really didn't represent 4 damage nearly as often as you would think it did. Especially because it came. My big thing about Onlooker is that it came out in the same set as Solari Soldier.
Oh, so it didn't feel like it was on par. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Because 4 and 1 is 5. Solari Soldier is actually 6 total stats, and Nightfall.
Not only that, but it's like, you know, suddenly I have this. You go hard. You play the Stygian Onlooker, and for the same amount of mana, I play a fearsome blocker.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So I'm curious though. Wow. Okay, just straight not developing anything else there with that mana from Khan. Now, there is one more Avalanche, and I also like how Vygg has played this. So, I don't think either player has kind of the advantage, so to speak, right now. What Vygg has done is he's using the cards when he can immediately. You know, you could argue he can get some more advantage or card advantage out of the Avalanche than if he had played it, you know, later than last turn like he did. But with the way his hand is looking, he does have a Ruination. So he can afford to just rip these Avalanche turn after turn, because he knows that any following turn where there is a lot of development, he does have that Ruination. And as long as he can make it to turn 10 for Anivia to level up, you're pretty solid at that point, because then you just have an Avalanche every turn. So you might as well just play these whenever you can leading up to turn 10.
Yeah, and it looks like I would imagine that if there is an attack out of KhannX now, we're going to do something like a Vile Feast onto the Elise, block with the Wraith Caller with the Anivia, because Rekindler is not only a very appealing option on the following turn, but more specifically, develops one of our additional Fearsome blockers. This is spooky.
Ooh, okay.
That's scary.
For more than one reason.
I hate you.
This does feel bad, though, getting rid for KhannX to lose this Elise, because that is an additional spiraling that you're not going to get. And honestly, you're not getting a whole lot of value now out of this Nocturne. You can make it so that your Wraith doesn't die. You deal 1 less damage. I'm not sure if you actually want to do that or just sink the 5 damage in. You've already seen a lot of Kindly Tavern Keepers come out. So there's not a whole lot of heal outside of those Grasp in the deck, right? I think that's actually... and technically that's the first Vial, right?
Yep.
So there's going to be 2 more Vial, and you do still have the full suite of Grasp. So, and there's 1 Kindly Tavern Keeper left. There's only 2 played, I believe. So, and all right, well, here comes the Frostbite, though. So there is that to obviously take into consideration as well. So it's going to get really hard here from Khan. Now, here's what I believe Khan might be trying to do. Mm-hmm. Risen Mist is a thing.
Yes.
So Risen Mist plus Relentless Pursuit is a thing. If you surprise open attack your opponent with something like Risen Mists, they're less inclined to want to clear the board unless they specifically are worried about Relentless Pursuit. So that might kind of bait Vygg into development at that point. So I'm curious to see if that is kind of Khan's end game there, is to go with an open attack with those Risen Mists, because I'm very impressed with that card. Risen Mist is it's one hell of a burst spell, and it can really surprise your opponent.
Very, very effective at playing around board wipes.
Yeah.
It looks like now Vygg is tired of playing the pass game, though, and says, you know what, actually, I am going to go in for the attack here. If you want to continue further development, I do have the Ruination, and I think a pass here actually would have been fine, because the Anivia is going to level, so it would have represented a fearsome blocker on the following turn. Granted, it does have the vulnerable tag on it still. Maybe it's going to get pulled away by this Wraith Caller, and that's what you're worried about, but 5 damage isn't a death sentence. There's not a lot of reach in this deck out of KhannX. There's no Atrocity, nothing like that. It looks like we are going to start off with the Glimpse Beyond, trying to get us a Rekindler down, or see what kind of development comes out of KhannX, because you would imagine if your opponent opens with this Glimpse Beyond that they are going for a Rekindler play. So I think that if there is a pass out of KhannX, that is a snap pass out of Vygg, because now there is no longer vulnerable on the Anivia.
Ooh.
Fading Memories onto the Wraith Caller and immediately playing it, not even going for the burst pass.
I mean, you just pass back. I mean, you don't ever go for that, right? So I feel like
this still isn't a super threatening board. The one thing that you do have to consider on the side of Vygg is what happens if he goes for Risen Mists, and worst, what happens if he goes for 2 Risen Mists to start off the turn into the attack? Is that something that I live through? Currently, I think the answer is yes, because you have this Grasp of the Undying, and I do like the pass out of Vygg.
Yeah, and right. You kind of have to as well. I mean, you play Ruination and you just get bodied next turn, right? You just develop and go into an open attack. And, all right, Crumble isn't bad.
Do we know what came out of that Stalking Shadows?
Do you not think we do? No, not that I saw. Going for the open attack here as well. Not going to play into that Ruination, it looks like. And this is going to heal up Vygg. I'm really up in the air now as to whether or not Khan is playing this correctly. Because we are at a point where Anivia is attacking every turn.
This could be the Mark of the Isle.
Oh, there is 3 of Mark of the Isle, yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times in open beta playing this game, Grasp of the Undying felt so bad in the early stages of Legends of Runeterra because of Mark of the Isle specifically. SJW, I'm getting flashbacks. I wasn't prepared for a trip down memory lane tonight.
Wow. And still not, I mean, you got to think Khan has Risen Mist in his hand too, right? So he's still not pulling the trigger on the Risen Mist open attack. There's the Mark.
Maybe now, with Ruination out of the way, your opponent being on 8 mana, no Withering Wail in the deck, all 3 Avalanche down, maybe this is where Khan gets a really big Relentless Pursuit.
Yeah, that is something to... And, man, 8 mana, yeah, you have no Ruination. I think you nailed it. Relentless Pursuit plus some development here. Wow. And honestly, I mean, we have 3 heal. We do have Crumble. Crumble is a thing. This
Skitter, that definitely reads like a Relentless Pursuit to me, taking, especially because that is an ephemeral.
Oh yeah.
you know that it's coming down this turn, and that means that Vygg
There's
can't
another one.
play. Yeah, but this is smart on the side of Vygg. I actually think it might have been.
Wow.
Why does he have 2 ephemerals? How many stalking shadows did he fire off?
I don't know, man. Yep, there it is.
Relentless Pursuit. And this, I like the ordering here because we have triple skitterer. Because now if Vygg goes for the Rekindler, we still get down that last skitterer, and it takes the Anivia that comes out off the table as a fearsome blocker.
Yeah, and with only one fearsome, that's game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's lethal.
Yeah.
What does Crumble do for us here? What does anything do? I don't... So we know that Rekindler isn't going to work out because we know that there's one more skitterer in hand.
Yeah, and if we play Rekindler, Crumble can't be played. If we play Crumble now, we can't play Crumble and Catalyst. And if we play Glimpse to try to draw for stuff, we can't play Rekindler. But Rekindler just loses.
I think you might have needed to Glimpse in response to the Relentless Pursuit.
Oh, wait.
Or now, no.
Oh, no, that was a great pass by Vygg.
Yeah.
That was a great pass. Wow. So, and I don't think Khan can go for that attack because you've got to assume with 8 mana there's some sort of removal, right?
Yeah, I mean, Grasp of the Undying already came out of your opponent, and that would read to me like Khan doesn't have another Mark of the Isle in hand, which makes sense because one of those cards is definitely another Frenzied Skitterer.
Wow. Wait, and why is he... Oh, he's just blocking the most damage. I was going to say maybe block the 3-2 because it's not ephemeral, but at this point you need to stay as healthy as possible. You do have Catalyst of Aeons. That was a great pass by Vygg. That pass literally might have won Vygg the game.
You need to have one of the strongest pass games in Runeterra if you're going to play Anivia.
Yeah. And that was good. And I think that did actually just win Vygg the game because if Khan had the read on Vygg's hand, Khan would have been able to just take that attack there and just win with that 7 day. Or actually, no, we could have still played the Catalyst.
So, Khan does still have another skitterer.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to have enough to get it through this Ruination and this Crumble and this Catalyst. Yeah, I think that there's just not going to be a realistic opportunity for Khan to win this game, although...
That's the thing.
I mean,
Doom Beast.
But there's still the Catalyst. Yeah. Doom Beast is immediately what I think of when I see Stalking Shadows, and there is the Doom Beast. I think you do wait. You want your opponent to run out that second ephemeral Doom Beast before you fire off the Catalyst because there's nothing else that really represents the 2 damage. There's no warning shot you have to worry about. As long as Vygg doesn't accidentally slam down a Rekindler here, then I don't think there's a world where he gets to lose.
I like the Glimpse. This is going to dig for some more heal, so that kind of further solidifies Vygg's W if we do get some heal. Actually, Vengeance also accomplishes that. There's the second Doom Beast. This is going to be the Catalyst of Aeon. So... I like this. I think Vygg has played this spectacularly. And honestly, to Khan's credit, I think Khan did everything that they possibly could to try to take this win. It's just not reading Vygg's hand that one turn, which is that's a hard read. Yeah. Not being able to take that attack, I think, is what might have lost the game there. And, I mean, we have Ruination now. We have Rekindler. This is...
I don't think you can Ruination because Khan plays Harrowing.
Oh, yeah, and there's 9 mana left. Yep.
You do want to save it for that, but Rekindler is enough here. I guess the problem is... so if you Rekindler...
You can't pass.
You can pass, actually, because you have Entreat into Harsh Winds.
Oh, okay, yes, okay, yep.
And Mark of the Isle, as much as I had flashbacks about it, it is no longer +3/+3. It does not represent lethal. No Unspeakable Horrors in this deck either, and without a Nocturne on board, that's not something that you have to worry about. But there is Fading Memories on Doom Beast just going in with the Skitterer, and that is going to get Vengeanced, it looks like.
This is so interesting. If we get this Vengeance out, now we have Crumble.
Yeah, and there's no way to develop 2 fearsome attackers and get a Relentless Pursuit off.
There is Doom Beast, okay. Uh-oh.
Is there 2 Doom Beast in KhannX's hand?
There could actually be another Doom Beast.
Is that it?
Oh, wow. This is still close, though. Oh, that's more heal.
And, I mean, now...
This is close.
Down to 1. Going from 1 to 2 doesn't matter here. The one lethal that you're considering is Doom Beast. And, Vygg has taken a while to actually win the game. There's been a lot of healing on the side of KhannX through all these Doom Beasts. So the Anivia is constantly getting blocked. It's not enough damage. And if you're going to give your opponent more and more time to get back into this game, realistically... there is a smidge of burn left on the side of KhannX to get this done.
No Unspeakable Horrors, notably. So we can't just do that one to the face like we'd want.
Yeah.
Risen, and then see, now the problem with Risen Miss is that Anivia is now a fearsome blocker, so that's not really going to do it. A Harrowing. Oh yeah, Harrowing just gets ruinated. So it would just have to be the third Doom Beast, right? There's one Doom Beast left, isn't there?
Harrowing into a fearsome attacker after the ruination comes out.
Harrowing into a fear. Okay.
But I think this is actually lethal.
I don't know. Is it?
Wait. I saw a GG Shen, so I'm assuming. 10, yeah. I mean, there's 10 damage. Yeah.
No, it's exact actually. Lethal. Yeah, barely. Wow. Okay. Wow, that was a very good game.
That came down to the wire, and that should speak to the strength of the Miswraith deck, because that's what it looks like when your opponent opens triple avalanche. Is you get them down to 1 HP.
Yeah, Vygg had to make some really crucial plays there, passing at very specific times, and yeah, I think you're right. That really does speak to the power of Miswraiths. The fact that you're able to play that late of a game with a deck that is supposed to be an aggro deck is kind of insane. You know, when you're playing against something like Rockatom, you can just, throw your hand on the board and just attack and not really worry about it. Going up against a control deck, War Mothers, Field of Rush, Anivia Rekindler, you need to always be worried about Avalanche, always be worried about Ruination, so it's a very difficult game to play. Most people play aggro because they don't want to think. Well, now you have to think. So you have to think about every single card your opponent could possibly board wipe you with. And I think that, I don't know, I think that there was a really good job done there by Khan to go ahead and think through those different cards and those scenarios and play through 3 Avalanche. But just not enough. Vygg just making some really key plays, passing when he needed to, and went ahead and took it away to go up 1-0 here in the finals.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for Vygg, at least in terms of the bracket reset. And like we had mentioned, he did fall to KhannX in the winners finals, but it was a 2-1. And if things have changed up a little bit differently, maybe that matchup went the way of KhannX previously, which I could definitely see, because I doubt Vygg opened, triple avalanche 2 matches in a row. That would be a massive tilter for KhannX. But yeah, I mean, KhannX definitely not out of this one, especially because he does have the bracket reset left available. And I would imagine that the deck left for Vygg, I have no guess. Yeah, I mean, it's either the Demacia Targon or it's the Swain Ezreal. It's kind of hard to say. We did see the Swain Ezreal banned previously.
I want to see the Swain Ezreal play. Like, I've been actually looking forward to seeing this deck play today because we haven't really seen it at all. So we'll see if we are able to get it here. Again, just waiting to get into game 2. Looks like they are starting, so we'll go ahead and load this bad boy up. We'll see what turn we got into here. Looks like turn 1, baby. I have mastered the bugs of spectator mode. We are good.
Why did you have to invite new bugs?
Yeah, I know, right? We have Ezreal Swain versus mid-range Frostbite now, so Khan also switching it up. So this does mean that the Rockatom was banned from Vygg. And I will mention, there is no removal on the side of the Ezreal Swain deck. There's no Scorched Earth for those landmarks, so I guess it kind of makes sense why we want to go ahead and get rid of Rockatom there.
I'm like looking at the deck list and I almost exited out of Rockatom and I'm like, wait, there might be a bracket reset. Let me leave this open. And then you said you want to get rid of Rockatom and I'm like, but the bracket reset. Not thinking that you were talking about the pick ban phase. So
yeah. So
I definitely think that it's solid banning on the side of both players. I am surprised by Vygg's willingness to play into the Frostbite mid-range. And, I didn't think that it necessarily deserved the 100% ban rate that it was seeing, but it is still a little scary. But, I mean, I do also have a lot of respect for Tahm Kench Shiraka.
So now, what tier do you rate this Ezreal Swain deck at right now?
Let me actually check my tournament tier list.
Did you make one?
Oh, yeah, I have one that I update every week.
Hey, there we go. Oh, wait, do you go through it in your video on YouTube? See the plug? See that beautiful plug?
Yeah, eventually I just turned those into, let me make a tier list. Oh, I put it in tier 1.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would generally agree, but, I mean, me playing, I've just been going hard with, the Go Hard TF deck. I am on point today, baby. So, that deck tends to usually have a decent time dealing with Ezreal Swain. So I don't know if I'm biased because of that, but I feel like it's actually not as good as like Ezreal decks of old. It's not as just ridiculously powerful. It doesn't win as easy, and so, it doesn't always win with Ezreal either.
Here's the question: do you think it's better than TF Swain?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
TF Swain was a powerhouse deck for a while. Obviously, it's had a lot of nerfs to it recently, especially the Riptide Rex, I think, sent it over the edge. But if you're going to call this deck better than TF Swain, which I do currently agree with, then yeah, I think it's got to be a tier 1 consideration. Yeah, it might not be as powerful as other Ezreal decks, but it is the most powerful Swain deck.
So is that just what this is? Is this just TF Swain, except now we took out Bilgewater, put in Ezreal, and just put in more removal?
You took 2 of the best win cons in the game and put them together with a lot of removal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So maybe that's the only reason why Swain TF was ever a thing, was because Ezreal just wasn't good anymore because of the old win condition of, you know, hitting 10 targets. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think it's the greatest deck, and maybe that's a good thing though, because it is still good, but it's not oppressive like Ezreal decks of old. And I think finally, just maybe, we have Ezreal in a good, healthy spot.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, there hasn't been like an insane spike in Ezreal playability.
Yeah.
And that there are. So it's always interesting because when Ezreal and Heimer are back in the meta, I feel like that's when we see the biggest disparities between North American and European metas. For example, in EU Masters, Targon Heimer is one of the most popular decks, and we just have not seen that at all on the North American side. And I think it was similar back when Karma Ezreal was a thing, and especially when Weimer and Targon Ezreal were both sort of at their zenith. There was a large presence of Heimerdinger in North America and not a lot of Ezreal, and then Ezreal was really popular in Europe.
Wow, yeah, that is weird. I have tuned into the EU Masters, and I've noticed that. I see Heimer all over the place, and then we cast tournaments on a weekly basis, and I'm like, where the hell is Heimer? Where is this mad scientist at? And yeah, it's unfortunate because I do like Heimer. Although I will say, Heimer can be the Heimer of old that I remember when Heimer was good was pretty tilting to play against, but. In the game we are in currently, we have mid-range Frostbite starting out with that Omen Hawk as per usual. Why? Because it's coded like that. Omen Hawk always going to come out on turn 1. And off to a decent start on the side of both players. Not really too much committed to the board. I will say KhannX also not really curving out into something like a Trapper. So we're not really putting any pressure onto Vygg with this Ezreal Swain deck. And that leads me to believe Vygg is going to have the advantage for the time being.
KhannX just saying, you know what, if you want to Mystic Shot something, you have to Mystic Shot a Sentry, which I think you just do.
Yeah.
A lot of players play really scared to kill the Avarosan Sentry, but if you're trading a free card for it, then you're not actually losing anything. The power of Sentry is that if it trades for another unit, you're advantaged because it replaces itself and the other unit does not. So killing it with a free card, at least to me, generally feels good. Here I would be hesitant on it just because I know that there is a Yeti lurking around somewhere near the top of my opponent's deck, and if I fire it off here, they get to develop it immediately, mana efficiently.
Yeah, I would pass, right? Because they still have 2 mana. So worst case scenario,
Mystic Shot up top.
Worst case scenario, your opponent passes and they burn 2 mana. So I think I'm willing to take that. But if they develop,
I'd send that at the face.
You would really?
Yeah, I'd throw it at your face. You're a deck with no healing.
Oh, that is a
I'm
good
playing
point.
A bit of a burn deck.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. Well, then there's also to take into consideration, though, you have the early Ezreal. So maybe you just try to level the Ezreal as quickly as possible. Because the consideration, though, is that if you are hitting this Avarosan Sentry, they could possibly draw into something like a Calling Strike or a Reckoning or something like that a little bit earlier than normal. But we'll see. We'll see if it has an impact. Because honestly, mid-range Frostbite does not deal with elusive units very easily other than just delaying the inevitable and frostbiting them.
So I'm curious to track where this Yeti comes from out of KhannX's hand. They definitely have it now. Oh, and we're just going to get a Heartguard. Okay, never mind.
Wow. So now things looking up for KhannX. I mean, we're starting to put some pressure. We have the tempo. We have a large unit, too, that is not going to be able to be easily killed. I mean, we have Mystic Shot and Get Excited in hand to technically kill it if we really wanted to, but that's a big investment just to kill one Hearthguard. We could just chump block it.
Yeah, when Karma Ezreal versus Frostbite midrange was one of the most prominent matchups in the meta, the Chump Wumps were a really big difference maker in letting the Karma Ezreal survive. It's a totally different ball game here. Not only is Ezreal very different, but it was a race to turn 10. The Frostbite midrange decks felt like they were just trying as hard as possible to kill you before you could get the Karma down. You don't have that inevitability anymore, but I mean, like, even if you have a Calling Strike, you might have to reconsider throwing it down onto the Ezreal because, you know, it is a prime Swain target as well, and it's your only answer for things like Leviathan in the late game is a Frostbite into a Calling Strike, and yeah, we're seeing the Ezreal just allowed to live because Swain is the higher priority target in this matchup.
Yeah, and I actually, yeah, so that makes a whole lot of sense. We saw that Culling Strike come out there. Again, we do have this chump blocker in the chump wump. Yeah, wow, and okay. Yeah, not even going to allow that chump wump to go ahead and block there. We are just going to get this free elusive attack off again. And we already saw a Culling Strike come out, so much lower probability that we're going to have the Culling Strike here for the Ezreal. And this Ezreal just continue to generate Mystic shots. This is going to get dangerous for KhannX real quick.
Yeah, only 18 more Ezreal attacks and the game is over.
Yeah, right? But the targets, just the free targets. The biggest thing with getting the free Mystic shots, if you are sending them at units, is you get free targets allowing you to not utilize the burn in your deck for targets, which means that burn can go face.
I guess my thing is, do you really need the Ezreal to level to burn out your opponent? Because I'm thinking if we had thrown both Mystic shots at face, our opponent's down to 14. We currently have 6 damage in hand before we even get into something like the mushrooms. But I do admit that there is a lot of power, specifically in Swain Ezreal. You know, we talk a lot about, oh, you get down Ezreal Carmen, that's a win con. If you get down Swain Ezreal, all of a sudden every burst spell, every mushroom cloud is a stun.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the big game-ending push that you're going for in a deck like this.
Yeah, that is one heck of a combo. And I was just going to ask, but you know what? I don't need to ask. I can just click. So we have 3 out of 6 on the Ezreal right now as far as targets are concerned. And we definitely have the capabilities of leveling the Ezreal in hand. We do have the Death's Hand and the Get Excited. Looks like we're going to go ahead and get rid of this Average Hearthguard. Culling Strike not going to be that useful. The best we can hope for is using it on something like an Average Trapper. And we still haven't even we haven't been able to get another one of those out yet. So,
yeah. Well, the Hearthguard came down.
Oh, that's right. And the Hearthguard's going to buff it up. So actually, that means it can't kill an Ice Veil Archer. So it actually can only kill an Avarosian Sentry or an Omen Hawk at this point.
That's not a great look.
That's a feels bad man moment.
Ooh, and there is Sejuani onto the Ezreal. That is not going to survive.
Nope.
And honestly, you can pull that with the Sentry. You're probably going to pull it with something a little higher priority just because you don't want them to be able to remove the Sentry in response. But now, actually, you can pull it with the Sentry and just go in with a Sejuani attack. But I think you might want to attack it with the Sejuani just to preserve the life of that champion.
Yeah, wow. So, really committing there to kill the Ashe. I mean, as far as advantage is concerned, you can see we're pretty even on both sides of the field here. You know, equal cards for the most part. We are able to level this Ezreal. Not sure if we really want to go ahead and invest a Mushroom now. It wouldn't... I think, actually, Swain at this point... All right, Swain is leveled. Yeah. So Mushrooms will also trigger Swain when they're drawn, so that could be a consideration for Vygg to go ahead and get these Mushrooms into the deck now, so that these stuns start happening. Plus, you get obviously the damage with the Ezreal. So
yeah,
we'll see if that's the route.
It is a little awkward just because you wouldn't have the Swain on field when the draw does come out. Oh, and we're just gonna rummage away. Yeah, I actually really like the rummage on the Culling Strike, as you had mentioned. Not a lot of targets left for that. Oh, and we pick up the Leviathan for the next turn.
That is a big deal because that Leviathan is going to be very difficult for KhannX to deal with. Generally speaking, mid-range Frostbite, the only way it's going to deal with something like Leviathan is Frostbiting it and getting rid of it with Reckoning or Culling Strike, so it's usually a 2-card commitment. So we'll see if that's going to be the case. Or if we just go for the Swain now and maybe wait to play the Leviathan. I mean, I feel like we've talked about this before. If you have 8 mana and you have Leviathan in hand, I feel like you just always jam Leviathan no matter what.
I'm not a fan of this pass. I feel like KhannX doesn't hate the open attack that's available to them.
Yeah.
Ooh, and now you actually get punished by drawing the 3rd Swain. This Leviathan now will not grab anything.
That's a punish if I ever saw it. The question...
And does that mean you just throw down the Swain so that you can flock the Sejuani to kill it? If they kill your Swain, then you go ahead and Leviathan next turn and at the very least get that back. But now, you're not even pushing the damage onto the Sejuani. Your Swain's Ravenous Flock looks so much more awkward now.
Well, I will say, you have a pretty safe next couple of turns because you can get the Leviathan down now. Then you can go into your turn getting the Swain down, and now your opponent needs to deal with it that turn or they don't have an attack.
I guess the question is, do you throw down the Leviathan here? Because if you were going to do that, why didn't you do it last turn?
Well, listen, yeah, I agree. like Leviathan should have been played. I'm just saying,
yeah,
it's not the end of the world because you do still have the next couple of turns still look okay for Vygg. The problem is we're investing I don't love this just to save this Chump Wump. You could have gotten 2 more Shrooms.
So Chump Wump's a little bit weird in this matchup because it is vulnerable to just about everything your opponent can have. Here we saw the Brittle still come out onto it. It's not safe in a Reckoning. And honestly, just looking at the Swain Ezreal deck as a whole, very, very susceptible to Reckoning. All you need is, we talk a lot about Harsh Wind's Reckoning coming down, but all you need is a Frostbite onto the Leviathan, and everything else in the deck organically dies to the Reckoning as well. But now we are going to see the Leviathan, and this is an insane amount of information for KhannX, who now knows for a fact that Vygg's hand is 2 Swain.
Yeah, that's a feels bad man moment.
And there is a Harsh Winds, I would imagine. That's it's only 5 mana, so it'd have to be Calling Strike. Okay. Also doesn't have a 5 attack unit.
That feels so bad, Jesus. I always forget. I literally, you know how many times I'm just gonna do that until the end of time. Every single time there's a good Reckoning available, I don't care what's on your board. You just play Reckoning. It's always gonna be like that.
Okay, the Swain does have a fair amount of use here because we pick up the Static Shock. We can, pick off the unit as well as stun our opponent. But maybe you don't even try to pick off this Avarosan since it will draw your opponent a card and it can't block the Swain anyway. But maybe you get it off the board so that it can't block the Chump Wump. If you're going to be pushing damage, I think you want to go for as much as possible. But going to set up this Ashe for the Flock instead.
It's a lot of maybes, Boulevard. I think it's not a maybe. I think it's happening. You said maybe before everything. I'm like, why is he saying maybe? It's actually what's happening right now.
I didn't even notice. I think I was predicting it as it was happening. I'm talking myself through how I would play it out and then
and seeing it at the same time. Yeah. So this this does mean that the Ashe is going to get stunned, which means we're going to go in for a pretty sweet Swain attack, which could theoretically just kill this Ashe. And I got to think this is just going to go through. I mean, you'd have to get a Frostbite.
Yeah, there's a Harsh Winds again.
Okay.
And that's going to level the Ashe, give us... this is really rough. Now we have... now the Ashe is actually out of range of the Ravenous Flock as well. Or no, she's still in there.
Yeah. But we do now have a potential OTK with Ashe, depending on what's in Khan's hand. What's unfortunate is if mid-range Frostbite doesn't draw how it wants to draw, you get to this point late in the game where you have a 5+ power unit on board, but a Trifarian Assessor just doesn't feel as good as it needs to at this point when you only have 4 cards left. So if Vygg is able to continue to keep this board down to almost no units, then I think KhannX is going to have a problem closing this one out.
I was actually wondering if you should wait until combat on the following turn to throw out the Flock, because now KhannX, I think they're only down to 1 more Ashe in the deck, but if they play the Ashe after the Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes out, I mean, I guess you have the Arachnoid Sentry, so you're not too concerned about it, and maybe that was the consideration there. Let's just get the Swain back in the deck as quickly as possible. Tri-Beam Improbulator, not a phenomenal top deck, and that's a problem that I do have with the card is,
late game.
It's something that needs a lot of scaling, and you're not a deck that has a lot of draw power. You have the 1 Progress Day in there, but every time you put Progress Day in a deck, it feels like, this deck will run out of cards, and I desperately need a refuel button.
Yeah, and I will say, luckily, he has an Arachnoid Sentry, so that will increase this Improbulator by at least 1, which I feel like as long as you get it up to dealing 2 damage, it feels okay. Anything above that is kind of just, it's extra sauce. It feels good. So we'll see if we're able to get anything substantial out of this Improbulator Beam as the next couple of draws come through. If we can get some sweet 3-cost cards. There's another 3-cost that actually will get some value here onto this Omen Hawk. Let's go.
Except we open attack with
Except,
the
never
Swain.
mind. I wonder... So I think... there's only 1 Rummage that he's playing. So there's actually no other way to use this Calling Strike now.
Oh my gosh. Only 1 Rummage? That seems weird to me. But so one, half the draw spells in the deck gone. We just need to find this Progress Day. And it feels really greedy to sit here and say, yes, I am just waiting to draw this. Even only 2 Static Shock. He just really wants to take advantage of the mushrooms as they are for the Ezreal Swain combo. Here is a leveled Sejuani, something that we really do not see out of these mid-range Frostbite decks that often.
That is how late of a game we are currently
in.
And
that's a big Sejuani.
Yeah, this stun will help, though, and we will be able to get this Chump Wump online, getting the Shrooms finally in the deck. So with any kind of luck, we will be able to get these Swain stuns starting on the next attack turn for KhannX, and this Swain does look like it will be able to stick this turn.
Yeah, and with the Tri-Beam Improbulator, that is enough damage to clean up this Trapper through the Arachnoid Sentry, and then you can trade onto the other Trapper with your Chump Wump. Things actually Or we just hit the Swain with it.
All right, well, this... I mean, I guess you throw the 4-1 at it, yeah. Because I don't think you can afford to take 5 damage right now.
Well, see, I was going to say throw the 3-2 at it and then improbulator it.
Oh, we really just going to use it as a 2 damage right now? I guess...
I don't think it's getting a lot higher, and if it only gets 1 higher, I don't think that's really a difference maker.
Well, yeah, and I don't think that Vygg... I kind of agree, because I don't think Vygg can wait. I think anything that you can use right now that's going to garner any sort of advantage, you just have to do it.
Yeah, and I think we might even see the mushroom clouds fired off and try to go for lethal. Oh, Patchbot Poro getting the elusive keyword.
Well, obviously, we calculated. Let's go.
I do not think this card should get a keyword, just based on the wording of it. While in hand, I have a random keyword that changes each round. When I'm summoned, grant me this keyword.
Yeah, that
feels weird that it got the elusive, but that's really big for Vygg.
And another probulator, unfortunately, actually, because now this one I don't think is ever really going to get any value.
Now, if it could go face, we'd have lethal here theoretically, but it's not that good.
We're just going for lethal. I don't know if I like this.
There is a slightly less than 50% chance for KhannX to draw a mushroom and die. There are 2 harsh winds already gone. There are 1 flash freeze. There are 3 harsh winds in this list out of KhannX.
We've only seen
and
1?
3 brittle steel. Yeah, I think it's way too risky to go for it.
Do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's the brittle steel.
There's the brittle steel.
So that would have wrecked the Swain.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's weird because KhannX has so many oops, I win buttons. If we ever see a Reckoning top deck, that is the end of the game. And now it's 2 more draws. There's 2 mushrooms.
See, that's unfortunate. That's actually bad for Vygg. Because that's less of a chance that mushrooms will be drawn at the start of the turn next turn to actually stun things. And you want them drawn actually 1 by 1. And you know what? You know what I just realized, too? Because I don't usually see shrooms with Swain. If you draw multiple shrooms, it's still only going to stun 1 target.
Yeah, because that all happens
1 instance of 1 damage. So that kind of feels bad.
Oh, this is getting really spooky for Vygg, who might have to change that. Shrooms might now be plan A, which is not reliable. Your opponent's at 8 out of 20. And she's thinking about firing off the improbulator to develop another blocker, thinking about where we want to send that. Yeah, the 5/5 makes a little bit more sense. Soften it up into the range of a chump wump.
And okay. Not the worst, but I don't think any 1-drop really would have mattered at this point. Oh, no, that's game.
Ooh.
Well, actually, no, it's not. It's not because we have the Ravenous Flock, too. Because I was going to say...
we also have a bunch of blockers.
Yeah. And
I actually don't even think you block the Sejuani.
I don't think you do either. And you could actually... Oh, wow. Wait. Oh, yeah. So he's going to keep the Poro bot to try to just attack and go for lethal, which feels bad.
There is burn in this deck. That's something that we had mentioned. Ezreal theoretically represents lethal, as does Mystic Shot into a Shroom. Get Excited. There are options for Vygg to still win this one. And yeah, just playing it a little bit safe, throwing out the block in case there is something like a Troll Chant coming down. Man, I'm okay. Oh, wow. Even gonna... All right, well, that's... Okay. I guess... Honestly,
doesn't really matter.
So I think the way that I prefer this might sound a little wild here.
5 and 5.
You don't block this Sejuani. You throw that chump wump in front of the 5/4.
You
throw
can
the
keep
Swain
Swain
in front of the 5/5, and you just don't play Ravenous Flock.
You can keep Swain and the Patch Poro bot and block the 5/5 with the 4/1, and you still live.
Yeah. The one thing that I mean, there's a couple different ways you could play this. I'm not a fan of blocking the Sejuani in any universe, though.
Yeah, well... Maybe
we're playing for the out of Noxian Guillotine?
I think in this case you do, just so you can keep your Swain.
Oh, that's right. The Sejuani is actually going to go off as well.
Yeah. I think I would have blocked the 4/1 into the 5/5 so you can keep the Swain and you live at 1.
Guillotine's not even... Yeah, Guillotine's nothing here.
Mm-hmm. So
not even really having that out as a realistic option. Yeah.
No shrooms drawn.
I definitely would have preferred to keep a Swain one way or another, but that's not going to be the case. We do have Static Shock, though. Can find a little bit more burn, and I think if we're going to Static Shock, we might as well do it pre-combat. See if we can find an Ezreal.
And because an Ezreal would be really big here. Unless
the only slow speed difference maker is Reckoning.
We haven't seen any
I guess
go off
Iceveil
yet, right?
Archer. Yeah, Iceveil Archer and Reckoning are what you're going for here, but I mean, you are in desperation mode. The chances that your opponent is going to draw 2 shrooms or you are going to draw another burn spell, not super high. You know, Ravenous Flock, not enough. Does KhannX have a punish for this? Nope, it's
Nope.
Omen Hawk, so we should be able to push just a little bit more damage with this patch Poro, but unless we can top deck a burn spell, which we are not going to have as an option, now it is all down to we need to draw Get Excited, and KhannX needs to draw a shroom. Really, really big ask. Or
4 shrooms get drawn.
Or 4 shrooms get drawn. If that happens, I'm gonna be a little tight.
Because that's how we win games here in Hearthstone. I mean, Legends of Runeterra. Nope, no shrooms.
And it was no shrooms and a thermo beam. Neither piece of the puzzle lining up, and that is going to be Vygg falling down here in game number 2. So we're gonna get a game number 3, and that is going to be the Mist Wraiths against Swain Ezreal.
Yeah, which should be interesting because Swain Ezreal does have a fair amount of fearsome blockers, and Arachnoid Sentry in and of itself is just really good for a fearsome blocker because it also does stun something. So, and lots of removal. So I feel like the Ezreal Swain deck actually does have the advantage in this particular situation. So we'll see if that's the case in just a second.
It's always funny to me to like look at the differences in decks in some of these players. For example, Vygg has brought, I mean, the Swain Ezreal, 14 units in the deck. Anivia, 12 units in the deck. Leona Aurelion Soul, 25 units in the deck.
Yeah, that's so. It's funny. Every time I've done this a few times while deck building the last couple of weeks. I'll go to build a deck and I'm like, all right, if I'm playing something that I want to focus on tempo, all right, 6-1 drops, 6-2 drops, 6-3 drops, 6-4 drops, 6-5 drops. That seems to like kind of maybe a little less 5 drops, you know, scale it down as you get higher. But then that adds up quickly, and all of a sudden I'm at like 36 cards, and I'm like, wait, so now I only have room for 4 spells, and that it makes me realize like, wow, this game is at a point where you can actually play a deck that has all followers and just champions, or you can play a deck that literally has all spells, and there's so many different ways to do either or.
I am really curious to know if we're ever gonna like. I've always enjoyed cards that give you a payoff for like running all units.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're gonna do that at some point because they're already testing it in Gauntlet and stuff. But we are getting into game 3, so let's go ahead and head on over. Turn 1 again. I'm a pro at this now. This is easy. You say bug, I say it's just a challenge to overcome. We got this. So KhannX, you nailed it. Got the fearsome Mist Wraiths versus the Swain Ezreal. So we'll see if Swain Ezreal in its removal suite is going to go ahead and put it on top here versus this aggro deck. Relentless Pursuit. Now, you know, this is... I really am curious about this game in particular. But, you know, I love Go Get It. I love the animation. I love the card. I love what it does. And Relentless Pursuit, I feel like, is just... It's old. All right? Like, it's been here a while. I've seen it.
We've seen it before. Yeah. It's the old busted card. Nah, I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see Go Get It.
But
no, I agree with you.
But it's you know, it's proven a point. It's doing its job. I mean, even though it lost the first game, it still did exactly what it wants to do, and it's similar to Go Get It in that it is still pushing damage. They just do it in different ways. So I'm curious to see if it's going to be a difference maker in this particular game as well.
I would imagine that it will be. The removal on the side of the Ezreal deck is fairly expensive, and Wraithcaller probably just one of the best straight-up +1s in the game. So even if you have to go on the value plan, which you might have to as Vygg, I don't necessarily know that you can outvalue the Wraithcaller deck, which does have more draw than you do via Stalking Shadows and, you know, just things like that. The Risen Mists, yeah, you've got a fair amount of removal for them here in the early game between the Death Sands and the Get Excited, but honestly, throwing out Get Excited as early removal feels really bad in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Well, it puts you back on card advantage too, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why Get Excited is always so debated as to, you know, whether or not it's going to be played in the deck. Never mind, I jinxed myself, man. It froze. Well, good thing. Actually, you know what? Before I restart, just because I wanna test some theories here, I want to see if I can just get back into the game by just restarting.
Oh, have you been exiting your client the entire time?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I haven't done that once.
I have exited my client every single time.
Oh no, I've not been exit. I just exit the spectator, get right back in there.
All right, so it looks like exiting spectator fixed the problem there. So
yeah.
All right, well, back into it. We got the Death's Hand. Death's Hand, great against this deck as well for exactly this. This is the exact card you want to be Death's Handing this early in the game on the side of Vygg.
What if there's a Mark of the Isle? Do you throw that out as KhannX and just push 5 damage turn 1?
I mean, it's something to be considered, but I will say this Fearsome deck I feel like very much wants to try to combo out for the last couple of turns, and I think that's why Mark of the Isles was added here. You want to Risen Mist and Mark of the Isles and surprise your opponent with like 10 damage on one turn. So
I feel like if you can push 5 damage on turn 1, it's okay to miss out a little bit of damage later on. One thing that I am going to be really curious is how long these Culling Strikes feel relevant, because if you ever try to throw a Culling Strike on a Mist Wraith that is a 3/2 and then a Risen Mist comes out in response, who is that a blowout?
Yeah, that is going to feel really bad, especially the loss in mana for 3 to actually play the Culling Strike. But again, though, Death's Hand, perfect answer to something like a Mist Wraith. And the Improbulator, too. Is this ordered correctly?
Yeah, I hovered the eye.
Okay. So it actually includes the stack played after it.
Yes.
When it goes off. That's interesting. Okay, cool. And, all right, a 4/3 summon. So actually getting the high roll a little bit there.
We get the Swain and the Ezreal, so a really effective hand on the side of Vygg.
Yeah, and getting this Ezreal down. I mean, so the Fearsome deck on the side of KhannX is not really going to be able to deal with this Ezreal unless it gets a Nocturne down.
Actually, I like this Skitterer to deny the Mystic Shot on the side of Vygg. If Swain had come down, then maybe you take the damage on the side of KhannX on your following turn. You go for the Skitterer to put the Swain just out of range. And Skitterer Nocturne feels so good in those decks, or against those decks rather, that have just enough Fearsome blockers to feel safe, but they're all 3 attack and just knock them down a peg, going for the big attacks. It came up really big in the Anivia game, and nope, here comes the Mist Wraith. There's 4 mana, but there's no Culling Strike to get the oops I win button on the side of KhannX, deny the bracket reset, and take home the grand prize. Instead, no, it will be Swain coming down.
Yeah, as I continue to see this played out, it does feel like this is a very hard matchup for the Fearsome deck. Just looking at the hand, you still have a Mystic Shot to fall back on. You even have a Get Excited if you really want to take out something that has 3 health. And we just have to go in for this attack just to force trades onto Vygg because, we're not able on the side of KhannX to get down any more Skitterers or anything like that. Now, this does push a fair amount of damage, so I'm curious to see if we see the Mystic Shot onto the Stygian Onlooker. I don't see why not.
See, I feel like if I'm going to Mystic Shot, I probably need to do it onto the Skitterer because
Wow.
So this seems misordered to me. You're pushing a little bit of extra damage onto your own Swain here.
I don't like this at all because one thing I was just going to say, you don't have heal in this deck. And you take when you have a shot to kill something that's attacking, you take it.
So the other reason that I like Mystic Shot onto Skitterer is because it presents no Fearsome blockers on the side of KhannX going into an open attack with the Swain.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
But instead now, not only did we not kill anything, our Swain is a 3/2 instead of the 3/3 if we had blocked the Mist Wraith with it. Yeah, just things not really working out great for Vygg here. He does still have a lot of removal, though. He even has the Progress Day for the refuel. And I don't know about you, but I always feel like if I'm playing aggro and my opponent has found a way to Progress Day and I did not immediately kill them for committing 8 mana to that, then I feel like I have lost that game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a big mana commitment. That's one of the drawbacks to Progress Day. I mean, that's why I think largely we've seen people stray away from Progress Day. Because it's just too risky to spend that much mana just to draw cards. It seems good. Yeah, you get 3 cards. What are you talking about? Nope. You lose way too much tempo 9 times out of 10.
So it looks like we are going to try to get our opponent to commit to the board here. Even comes an Nightfall Nocturne. Felt like a weird way to phrase that one. I was about to say the Get Excited, discard the Guillotine. Guillotine doesn't get a lot of value in aggro matchups. Generally, if you're damaging them, they're dying, and this will pave the way for the Swain again. And also now, because the Swain is leveled, if your opponent throws down another unit that you don't want blocking the Swain, you can throw that Mystic Shot at face in order to stun the unit and then get the board wipe with the Swain.
Yeah, and with that said, we even have Ezreal now. I mean, it's 5 out of 6. One more target. We're good to go to just start going face. And Progress Day is a good way to start towards that strategy.
Oh no! Throw it at face. Throw it at face.
Oh man. Well,
it is a little greedy to throw it at face. Mark of the Isle is something that you'd have to consider there, but
I like this because it gives you the last target for Ezreal. This will level up.
Yes.
And this means that when you go
That's
into the attack, he'll actually be leveled. So I do like this. This will give you another Mystic shot that you can eventually throw phase.
I just like going for the board wipe.
Hey, listen, we
but
know
no, you're probably
you
right.
want to go phase today. I get it. Every once in a while we have that day, okay?
Yeah, you know, it's been a long weekend. It's the end of it. I'm like, look, play properly. Never heard of it. Send everything up top. Face is the place, everybody.
So now the question is, with this attack, so it looks like Vygg is considering not attacking with the Swain to play around Mark of the Isles, which is definitely a consideration. Feels bad because it feels like such a good attack, but we do have to pull it back.
I think the only way you lose this game is if you lose this Swain. So this does feel correct to me. I think if there was a Mark of the Isle, it would have had to have been top decked within the last couple of turns. Not even throwing the Mystic Shot at this onlooker, very willing to just let this unit sit around.
All right, Arachnoid, a great draw as well. Is this going to be a harrowing? Yeah. This is going to be a harrowing.
Oh no, that could be a disaster.
This might just be game, and this is where that mistake earlier, taking that damage, I don't think was good. I mean, you can't take damage with this. Oh,
okay.
We still have 9 mana.
Harrowing would not be a death sentence because you have the Ezreal Swain online. So any burst that Progress Day represents a stun, and then Arachnoid Sentry represents another stun.
Yeah, so I don't know if it would actually be lethal. It would be close. And the other thing too is you have this Stygian onlooker that's actually taking up a spot. that is one problem that I've found with that card.
Maybe that is why we left the Stygian onlooker around. We were playing around the harrowing. I mean, that is a realistic play around, right?
Yeah, that's honestly the problem that I have with that card. I mean, every time you have that, like after it's a 4-1, you literally wish it was an ephemeral 4-1. Like you wish it just went away. You're never gonna use it, and I mean, yeah, sure you could chump block with it or something, but it will most likely get killed here. We do not have
Arachnoid Sentry onto the Nocturne. Yeah, this is feeling so good for Vygg right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, we'll not have the.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this is just as good. I do like this because now you have the Arachnoid Sentry to combo with Ravenous Flock on another turn.
Yeah. I think it's safer to go for the Static Shock onto the onlooker. Because if you are playing around that Mark of the Isle that we had predicted, maybe it was just saving board space for harrowing, maybe Mark of the Isle was never a consideration. But if Mark of the Isle doesn't get around Static Shock on the onlooker, because you're going to get 2 instances of damage and 2 stuns. So I guess it actually doesn't matter. You're going to stun both units here anyway. And now you are setting up the Nocturne for the Flock. So yeah, I guess it is correct to send this at the Nocturne rather than take that unit off the board. And overall, things looking really good for Vygg here to get that bracket reset.
All right, let's see. We got to get excited as well. This is looking like Vygg's going to be able to close it out. And it's really, honestly, what's keeping Vygg in this game is the stuns from this Swain. It's not Ezreal closing out the game. And this is what I was talking about before. It doesn't feel like Ezreal is as much of a win condition as he used to be in the past. He is just a method to the madness, and he is able to fuel Swain's madness in this case.
I'm pretty sure Vygg has lethal here. He's not going for the lethal that I would have gone for, but he is going for lethal anyway, and there is now a Relentless Pursuit very clearly on the top of KhannX's deck.
Yeah. Which, well, if there's... All right, so here's my other problem with Harrowing and Relentless Pursuit in the deck. Doesn't quite work.
Well, it does give you the possibility of an off-turn Harrowing.
I guess, yeah, but you can't Harrowing and then Relentless Pursuit, which kind of feels bad. Whereas you can actually Harrowing, or well, actually you don't have enough mana for Harrowing or Go Get It, so never mind, I take that back. I was gonna say Go Get It would work with Harrowing if you had enough mana. It'd actually synergize with it a little bit, but
yeah, but I mean, you can play Relentless Pursuit Harrowing on the same turn. Feel pretty okay about that. Might as well go for lethal here, right, Vygg?
Yeah, he's got it. I mean, we even have both shrooms here. Those are 1, 2. This is gonna be 4. That's 6. This is 7, 8, 9 damage. So yeah, looks like we do. Well, we won't have it this turn because we have to wait a turn to play this room, but it'll be start of the turn.
The lethal that I thought he was going to go for earlier in the turn is like throw down Chump Wump. You know, throw the shrooms at your opponent, stun 2 units, Arachnoid Sentry another unit, Ravenous Flock the Nocturne to stun another unit, and then just go in for that all-out attack and kill your opponent. But Vygg plays it a little bit more reserved, and he is still going to have lethal.
Yeah, and like I thought, you know, this just seems like a really difficult matchup for the fearsome aggro player. It's just so much removal, so much stuns. Like, there's just so many ways to counter aggro.
What this does mean, SJW, we're going to match number 4.
Oh,
this is going to be the bracket reset for Vygg. No healing available for KhannX. Not going to be able to get that Doom Beast down at fast speed or with Nightfall active. So Vygg, just respond to the harrowing, and you, okay, not going to respond to the harrowing, but we are going to kill our opponent before they kill us, right, Vygg? Yep. Okay. Had me worried there for a second. I was like, I don't see a reason not to respond to the harrowing. I guess, you know, you are stunning more units. It's effective. Oh, and he even has the Nocturne
emote. Playing a Nocturne deck, has the Nocturne emote. KhannX, you have my heart, man. You have my heart. That was on point. Good timing. Good time. I told you, we were just talking about last week. It didn't feel like the Nocturne emote was used quite enough. So good to see somebody use it and take the L like a man. Use the Nocturne emote. Get some extra points there. And yeah, like you said, Vygg gonna take it to a bracket reset here. Going into the second match. Wow. All right. Our first ever Poro Furioso. And we are going to a second match for the grand finals here with Vygg being able to get the reset. And this is now technically the third time they've played in the top cut. All right, Vygg going to go ahead and take it to another set there for Poro Furioso number 3. That game will be coming up soon, so turn on that bell. And as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out. All right, the grand finals. You know, comment below with what you call the finals of double elimination brackets. Is it just like the winner's grand final? Like there's a winner's finals and then like a finals and then a final grand. I don't know. Comment below. Let me know what you think. But we got KhannX and Vygg part 2 coming up right now for the Poro Furioso number 3 championship. We'll see who's able to take it home, and if Vygg will be able to take home not just the LRA for Team Mafia alongside his teammates, but also the Poro Furioso number 3. Again, with 200 entrants, so this is no snuff of a tournament. This was a pretty large event. And again, thank you to everybody involved. Sergen, definitely for communicating with me and getting me and Boulevard involved in casting this as well. Awesome stuff. Awesome for Riot Latin America also helping to put this together and just allowing us to go ahead and stream this alongside the Spanish casters as well. So let's go ahead and without further ado get into Vygg versus KhannX for the finals of Poro Furioso number 3. Alright, and congratulations, Vygg is your Poro Furioso number 3 champion. So good stuff. On the side of Vygg, again, taking home, or helping his team take home the LRA for Team Mafia Esports, and then also picking up a sweet, sweet Poro Furioso win over the weekend. And again, huge shout out to everybody involved. Thank you for everybody who was in chat that day as well, all the viewers, and most importantly, the players, because without you, what the hell are we watching? Nothing. Exactly. So thank you to everybody who joined the tournament and had a great time. If you want more information on the tournament, links below in the description to the Discord. If you want to go ahead and join next time we have the tournament. I believe, generally speaking, it's every other week. That might change over the next couple of months just because of the EU Masters and the regional tournament and all this happy stuff going on for Legends of Runeterra. But stay tuned. There will be more Poro Furioso action coming your way. So, as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.